Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tackle a question I got during a recent live stream that I think deserves a much deeper dive than I gave it in the moment. The question was, how do you become a successful red teamer? And can you share some ups and downs? This is such an important question because I see a lot of aspiring security professionals setting become a red teamer as their immediate goal. And I want to give you the real unfiltered truth about what that path actually looks like. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's talk about the reality of red teaming. The good, the bad, and the stressful moments where you're hovering over the enter key, wondering if you're about to get caught. The foundation. Why red teaming isn't entry level. Let's start with what might be the hardest truth to hear. Red teaming is not an entry-level position. And I'm not saying this to discourage you. I'm saying this to help you build a realistic roadmap. Think of it this way. Would you trust a surgeon who's never done a single procedure to perform a complex multi-hour surgery? Of course not. Red teaming is similar. It requires a foundation of skills that you really need to develop first. Here's why. Red teaming uses almost all the same technical skills as penetration testing, but layers on additional complexity around stealth, operational security, threat emulation, and long-term persistence. You're not just finding vulnerabilities, you're simulating a real adversary who's trying to avoid detection while achieving specific objectives. If you don't have the foundational pen testing experience, you're essentially trying to run before you can walk. You'll be learning basic exploitation techniques while simultaneously trying to learn how to do them quietly, which is like learning to play piano while also learning to play it in the dark with gloves on. The realistic timeline. So what does a realistic timeline look like? This is just an example, but here's what I generally recommend. Years 0 to 2. Build your technical foundation. Learn networking, systems administration, basic security concepts. Get into help desk, IT support, or junior security roles. Start learning offensive security in your spare time. Get foundational certifications if that's your style. Then years 2 to 4. Penetration testing experience. Move into application or infrastructure penetration testing. Work with real clients on real engagements. Learn what good enough reporting looks like. Understand the business side of security testing. Develop your methodology and workflow. Now, years 4 plus. Transition into red teaming. Seek out companies with established red teams. Shadow senior red teamers on engagements. Learn the operational security mindset. Understand threat intelligence and adversary emulation. Now, these timelines aren't set in stone. Some people move faster, some slower. But the key point is there's progression. Each stage builds on the previous one, breaking it into achievable chunks. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people setting become a red teamer as their only goal without breaking it down into smaller achievable milestones. It's like saying, I want to climb Mount Everest without first climbing any other mountains. Let me give you a better framework. Milestone 1. Technical proficiency. Your first goal should be become technically proficient in offensive security. This means understanding how networks actually work, not just theoretically. Become comfortable in Linux and Windows environments. Knowing how to script and automate tasks, understanding common vulnerabilities and how to exploit them. This is where you are building the toolkit. You're learning the individual techniques without worrying about stitching them together into complex operations yet. Now, milestone number 2, practical pen testing experience. Your second goal, successfully conduct penetration tests for real clients. This is huge because you learn to work under time pressure, you understand what findings matter to businesses, You develop your methodology and note-taking. You learn to communicate technical issues to non-technical people. I cannot stress enough how important this experience is. When you're on a pen test, you're throwing everything at the target. You're scanning, you're exploiting, you're becoming noisy, and that's fine. That is literally what the client hired you to do. This experience teaches you what the baseline looks like. You learn what's normal in terms of security testing, which later helps you understand what's stealthy. Milestone number 3, advanced techniques and stealth. Only after you're comfortable with basics should you start thinking about, how do I do this without getting caught? This is where red teaming really differentiates itself. Now you're learning how defensive tools actually detect you, what normal traffic and behavior looks like, how to blend in with legitimate activity, when to be patient and when to move. See the difference? You're building a foundation rather than trying to learn everything at once. The Pentesting Foundation, what you'll use every day. Let's talk specifically about why that Pentesting Foundation is so critical. Pretty much every skill you develop as a pen tester, you'll use as a red teamer. Let me break this down. Technical skills that transfer directly. Reconnaissance and OSINT. As a pen tester, you'll learn to gather information about targets, domain names, IP addresses, employee information, and the technologies in use. As a red teamer, you do the exact same thing. You just might spend more time on it and be more careful about your footprint. Exploitation. Whether you're pen testing or red teaming, you still need to know how to exploit vulnerabilities. The difference is just in execution. As a pen tester, you might use Metasploit's lattice modules. As a red teamer, you might compile your own custom payload. But the underlying knowledge of how the exploit works, that's identical. Post-exploitation, privilege escalation, lateral movement, credential harvesting. These are core penetration testing skills that are absolutely essential for red teaming. The only difference is that as a red teamer, you're thinking about operational security at each step, reporting and communication. Both roles require you to clearly document your findings and explain them to clients. If anything, the reporting in red teaming can be even more complex because you're telling a story about how an adversary could compromise the organization over time. The mindset shift. Here's what changes between pen testing and red teaming. The mindset. As a pen tester, your job is to find as many vulnerabilities as possible in a limited time frame. You are comprehensive. You are thorough. You document everything. As a red teamer, your job is to achieve specific objectives while avoiding detection. You are selective. You are patient. You only document what matters to the narrative. But here's the thing. You can't develop that selective, patient mindset without knowing what comprehensive looks like. You need to know what all the options are before you can choose the stealthy ones. It's like jazz improvisation. You need to know the rules before you can break them artfully. The stress factor. Why red teaming is different. Now let's talk about something I touched on briefly in my original answer but want to expand on. The stress and psychological difference between pen testing and red teaming. The hover over enter moment. I mentioned this in my original response and it's so real. In red teaming, you'll find yourself typing the command, then just staring at it, hovering over the enter key, second guessing yourself. Is this going to get me caught? Is this too noisy? Should I wait until after hours? Is there a better way to do this? This doesn't really happen in pen testing. In pen testing, you run your in-map scan, you fire off your exploits, you try all the things. Getting caught isn't really a concern because the whole point is to find issues, and detection is actually useful information for the client. But in red teaming, getting caught can mean the end of your engagement. If the blue team detects you on day 2 of an 8-week engagement, you might not get to test the more advanced stages of their detection and response capabilities. The weight of the engagement. Red team engagements are long. We typically run them 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes longer. That's 6 weeks to 8 weeks of maintaining operational security, documenting everything meticulously, making careful, calculated decisions, simulating a real adversary's patience and methodology. Compare that to a typical pen test, which might be 1 or 2 weeks. The sustained pressure is different. It's not necessarily harder, but it's a different kind of challenge. And here's something I've noticed in myself and other red teamers. After a long red team engagement, you just want to get your hands on an internal pen test to have some fun. You want to be loud. You want to run all the scans. You want to just exploit things without overthinking it. It's not to say red teaming isn't fun. It absolutely is, but it's a different kind of satisfaction. It's the satisfaction of pulling off something complex and detailed, rather than the immediate gratification of popping shells. Imposter syndrome never really goes away. Here is something I want to be really honest about. Even experienced red teamers feel uncertain sometimes. If you don't have the solid base experience, this feeling is amplified. You're constantly wondering, am I doing this right? Would a real attacker do it this way? Am I being too cautious or not being cautious enough? But even with years of experience, that uncertainty doesn't completely disappear. Every environment is different. Every engagement has unique challenges. And because you are trying to avoid detection, you don't get the immediate feedback you get in pen testing. In a pen test, you know you're doing it right when you find vulnerabilities and compromised systems. In red teaming, you might not know if you're doing it right until the engagement is over and you are reviewing your operational security with the blue team. This is actually healthy. It keeps you sharp and careful. But it's important to know going into that red teaming involves living with some confusion and uncertainty. The ideal path, joining an established red team. So we've talked about what skills you need and why the progression matters. Now let's talk about the ideal scenario for making that transition into red teaming. The best case scenario. The absolute best way to become a red teamer is to join a company that has an established red team with senior, experienced operators. Here's why this is so valuable. You get to shadow and learn. Instead of being thrown into the deep end, you can observe how experienced red teamers approach engagements. You see their thought processes, their tool choices, their operational security decisions in real time. You have mentors. When you're uncertain about something, and you will be, you have someone to ask, someone who's been there, made the mistakes and learned the lessons. You avoid the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is joining a company that says, you are the red team now. Here's the Cobalt Strike. Good luck. That's a recipe for disaster. You'll be making it up as you go, potentially making mistakes that a more experienced operator would avoid, and not learning best practices. You build on a foundation. A good red team will have developed methodologies, documentation templates, tool sets, and operational procedures. You're not starting from scratch. You're learning a proven approach and then adapting it to your style. What to look for. When you're looking for that ideal red team position, here's what you should seek. Team size. Look for teams with at least 3 to 4 members. A one-person red team isn't really a team. Established methodology. Ask about their approach to engagements. Do they have a documented methodology? Training budget. Will they support your professional development and certification pursuits? Diverse engagements. Do they do different types of red team operations? Or is it the same thing every time? Collaboration with blue team. How do they work with defenders? Is there a feedback loop? The reality check. Now here's the reality. These ideal positions are competitive. Companies with established red teams tend to hire people with experience. It's a bit of a catch-22. This is why I emphasize building that Pentesting Foundation first. When the perfect red team opportunity comes up, you want to be the candidate with 2 to 4 years of pentesting experience, demonstrated technical skills, good communication and reporting abilities, an understanding of adversary tradecraft, relevant certifications if that's your thing. You want to be the obvious choice, not the gamble. Keeping it real. Final thoughts. Let me wrap this up by being really clear about a few things. It's not unachievable. First, become a red teamer is absolutely achievable. You don't want anything I've said to discourage you. The goal of this video is to give you a realistic roadmap, not to tell you it's impossible. Plenty of people make this transition successfully. I did, many of my colleagues did, you can too. Pace yourself. The key is pacing yourself. Don't rush the foundation building phase. Don't skip steps. Each stage of your development is valuable and necessary. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't skip the foundation just because you're excited to see the walls go up. The foundation is what makes everything else possible. The journey is valuable. Here is something that might sound counterintuitive. The journey to becoming a red teamer is actually more valuable than the destination. All those years of pen testing, all those different environments you'll test, all those vulnerabilities you'll find, all those reports you'll write, that is building you into a well-rounded security professional. By the time you transition into red teaming, you'll have a wealth of experience that makes you effective at that role. You'll understand not just the technical how, but the business why. Stay curious and keep learning. The security field moves fast. New vulnerabilities, new tools, new techniques, new defenses. It's constant evolution. Whether you're in year 1 of your journey or year 10, keep learning. Stay curious. Try new things. Break things in authorized environments. Read write-ups. Watch talks. Engage with the community. Final encouragement. If red teaming is your goal, go for it. Just approach it strategically. Number 1, build your technical foundation. Number 2, get real pen testing experience. Number 3, develop your methodology and soft skill. Number 4, seek out opportunities to shadow red teamers. And number 5, when you're ready, make the transition. And remember, the security community is pretty welcoming. Reach out to red teamers on social media, for example LinkedIn or X. Most of us are happy to answer questions and provide guidance. We were all beginners once. Alright, that's everything I wish I had said at that live stream response. I hope this gives you a clearer picture of what the path to red teaming actually looks like. If you want to know more about offensive security and red teaming specifically, then watch this video next. Drop a comment below if you have a question. I read all of them and try to respond when I can. And remember, whether you're in your journey right now, that's actually where you're supposed to be. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one.